Hey there, Dr. Wendy Askew and Danielle Cunningham from the One Beauty Bar. We're here again with another episode of The Whole Truth. We want to give y'all some information about a scary topic that y'all face every day when you're out there with new sex partners, sometimes even with current or old sex partners, and that's the issue of sexually transmitted infections. It's not a fun topic, but it's important and stuff y'all need to know. So we want to give y'all some information to arm you, ways to protect yourselves, and then hopefully answer some questions about this scary subject. So
it is. It's so scary, especially dating. And we've all been there, that we go back to exes and, we're trying to figure out our scope, that, a lot of people need to ask their partners, I want you to take an STD test. But I think that a lot of women aren't confident, and a lot of men as well. I mean, who wants to talk about this topic?
It's awkward, but let me promise you, it's much more painful and awkward to come in with blisters or pain or a discharge or an infection and have to get tested and find out that you got something.
You got the clap.
You got chlamydia, gonorrhea, herpes, something that maybe even can't be cured. So these are the reasons why you have to take that awkward step and let your potential partners know, you and I are about to take this next step and be intimate with each other. I care about you, I have feelings for you, and I want to move our relationship forward, but I want to know what your sexual history is. Have you been tested for sexually transmitted infections? What have you been tested for? When were you most recently tested? And then, of course, be willing to share with them, we're going to take this step, I'm going to go get tested, and I can even bring you a copy of my results before we move forward.
Or even going and getting tested together.
Absolutely. It's a great idea.
Then that person isn't lying, because, there's a lot of times people say certain rumors and they're not true, but then people go and they get tested together. And it's so important to really start that relationship, that really good, strong foundation to know that you're clean.
Yep.
So you can enjoy the sex together, because, really, as much as heat and passion happens, those wild nights that all of a sudden you have to deal with it the next day is horrible, and it's scary, and too many people don't want to talk about it. I think that we should talk about it more.
You absolutely should, because they're out there. These things are out there, right? And I have to tell people every single day, hey, I got your pap smear results back and you have HPV. It's a sexually transmitted infection, and 80% of the sexually active population have it. So HPV stands for the human papillomavirus, and it's the most common sexually transmitted infection, and it has potential implications for cervical cancer. So luckily, it doesn't usually cause it, but it can, and it can be devastating for people to get the news from me on the phone that they have a sexually transmitted infection. For people to come in when they have developed a bump down there, that's terrifying for women. I mean, people are frightened when they come in. And so there's all kinds of tests that we can do, but sometimes people don't have symptoms. People can have infections and not have any signs, may not even know that they have it, and pass it to you. And so that's why it's important for you to have this kind of communication with your potential partner. Honestly, if you're going to be sexually intimate with someone, you should be able to talk to them about these things. I know it's scary, but it's important.
I think it's even more scary is whenever people are actually married and then their spouse goes and cheats. I mean, that is so, I know women that cheat on their husbands, and, husbands that cheat on their wives. And that's like the most disrespectful thing that I think is out there. You know what I mean? If you're going to do that, at least protect your partner, the mother of your child, or, the father of your child, that a lot of people don't think about. That, wrap it up. It's only going to protect everybody.
Right. I mean, the levels of betrayal within a marriage or a committed relationship are way even bigger than the sexually transmitted disease issue, but that one has to be addressed and dealt with too. So condoms.
Isn't there shots now for HPV for teenagers, right?
It's actually FDA approved, and the insurance will cover it from the ages down to age 9 to 26. So I don't usually recommend 9-year-olds get it. They have to get enough vaccines. But the best time for young women and young men to get the HPV vaccine is before they start having sex. Because once they start having sex, you don't know if they've already been exposed to the virus or not. So the Gardasil series protects against many strains of the HPV virus and can help decrease your lifetime chance of getting cervical cancer, cancer of the penis, cancer of the anus, all kinds of things that you really don't want to have to deal with or to have your children deal with. So think about vaccinating your children.
I know, and that's something that, we have kids. I mean, I have a 9-year-old, you have one, and it's so weird because there's so many people that I talk to that they're like, I lost my virginity at 12. And really having that awkward conversation to go to your child and tell them, hey, here's a condom. But at least it's better than you ending up being a young grandmother.
26-year-old grandma.
Yeah.
Right?
That would be depressing. And it happens all the time, unfortunately. And,
it's sad.
It's...
Right.
I mean...
Yeah. As a gynecologist, I feel like I hope I have pretty open communication lines with my children, and we talk about periods and we talk about these things from a pretty early age. So I think it's important for parents to not take this blind view of whether or not their child is going to be sexually active or not, because the statistics are there, and they're not just statistics, they're based on reality. So it's not that you're condoning your child's behavior, it's that you're trying to protect them, right? That's what we do as parents, we try to protect our kids. And so in this subject, condoms are really your only line of defense, and the Gardasil vaccine against sexually transmitted infections, and they're not 100% effective, but when you're having sex with a new partner, condoms are probably your best hope for not getting exposed to a sexually transmitted infection.
It's so important to talk about this.
What other things do patients want to know about with respect to those things? Other than condoms, no other form of birth control will give you good protection against sexually transmitted infections. They protect against pregnancy, and so that's really important. But yeah.
I know there's like IUDs, and then there's also, does it really make you gain weight whenever you get the
Nexplanon implantable contraceptive, right? Birth control is a great topic. We can do a whole issue talking about all of it. Hormonal contraception has about a 10% association with weight gain and with weight loss, except for the injectable shot, that 3-month shot called Depo-Provera. That one's got a much higher chance of gaining weight. But the implantable rod, it's about 10% risk of gaining weight, which is the same with birth control pills.
It's so interesting because I have an IUD, and I love it. I know so many women that are single, and then all of a sudden they're getting pregnant again. And I'm like, okay, you're an adult. If you have sex, you know what happens. It's so important to protect yourself to be a better mother, because I know firsthand being a single mother and still trying to date, still trying to build your career, trying to do it all. Getting pregnant is not the best idea, but it's funny how many women just are like, oh, I accidentally got pregnant. And
unplanned pregnancies.
I know, but you would think as an adult it wouldn't happen.
Yeah, we have this joke with patients. When they come in for their visits, we always ask them, like, what are you doing for birth control? And they'll often say, I'm not doing anything for birth control. And then I ask them, are you trying to get pregnant? And they say no. And then I say, well, as a gynecologist, if you're having sex and you're not using birth control, we call that trying to get pregnant. And it's, not to be facetious or condescending, but it's what happens. If you're having unprotected sex, pregnancy happens.
It does happen. I don't think that the pull-out method works either. I know there's been a few friends that they're like, oh, the pull-out method works. And I'm like,
it's not 100%.
It does not work.
It's better than nothing, but it is not 100% by any stretch of the imagination.
But yeah, so that being said, though, it's so scary, though, being out there and dating and thinking that your partner goes out on you.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, because I know one of my girlfriends, she had only one partner and they were married for 9 years, and she came back and she had herpes.
It breaks my heart to have to see patients when this happens to them. Herpes especially, because as most people know, once you get the herpes virus in your system, it integrates into the DNA of the cells, and it can never go away. It can lie dormant, and you may never get another outbreak again, but you can never cure it. So once it's there, it's considered forever. Some people are unfortunate and get outbreaks frequently, and other people may not get outbreaks very frequently, but once you've gotten exposed to the herpes virus, potentially it can come back throughout your entire life, certainly more likely under times of stress, or if your immune system's not functioning very well, if you have autoimmune diseases, or if you take steroids, things like that. Other sexually transmitted infections can be cured, like chlamydia, gonorrhea. Something that's important to know is that an infection called syphilis has made a huge comeback, and San Antonio has the 3rd highest incidence of syphilis in the state of Texas. So this is something that we used to think was like gone, a relic back from like the 1800s, 1900s. But syphilis is back, and it's very dangerous. If it's not caught and treated, it can cause neurologic damage and tons of health effects. So sexually transmitted infections, unfortunately, are out there, and we're all susceptible to them if we're out having sex. And so important for y'all to arm yourself with some education and take the precautions that you can to protect yourselves.
And get tested.
Absolutely.
That's the main thing.
Regularly if you have new partners or if you have any suspicions about your current partner. Thanks for joining us.
Bye, you guys.